did the book 1984 by George Orwell. So his real name is Eric Blair. The pen name that he created in 1933 was George Orwell. So he was born June 25th, 1903, in India. His death date was January 21st, 1950. He was 46 when he died from tuberculosis. And if no one knows what tuberculosis is, it's an infection in the lungs. Education. So he first went to I'm going to say this wrong, Cyprian School. He went there when he was 8, and he attended for 6 years. This is in Sussex, England, and this is when he determined his views on like English literature and like the English class and stuff like that. In Wellington College is like a prep school, so it wasn't actually college, but it was like pre-college, but he never went to college actually. So this is in Crowthorne, England. He only attended 1 term, so 1 year, and he won a scholarship. Then he went to Eton College, which is actually a high school. It's what Miss Mondell said when she was going through it. It's not a college. This is in Windsor, England, and he attended for 4.5 years. And he also won a scholarship to go here, and this is where he studied writing. So after college, his parents didn't have money, so he was a poor family. He grew up, and he couldn't afford to further his education. So he decided to go to the Indian Imperial Police for 5 years in Burma. He was always ill, and he hated his duties while training there. So he hated it because he was required to enforce strict laws of a government that he hates. So he left on medical leave and pursued his writing career. His resignation from the police force became effective January 1st, 1928. That's when he started to pursue his career in writing. So Blair is a child. He was very shy and lacked self-confidence. He suffered from bronchitis all his life. He spent hours reading, and he was interested in science fiction, ghost stories, Shakespeare novels, Edgar Allan Poe, and Charles Dickens, and Rudyard Kipling. Those are like his favorite authors. When he was 4 years old, he wrote his first poem. Also at the age of 4, his family returned to England and settled in Henley, which is a small village, and that's when his father returned to India. At 8 years old, he attended St. Cyprian's School, and at 11, his first poem was published in a local newspaper. His family. His father is Richard Wellesley Blair. His mother is Ida Mabel Blair, and his older sister is Marjorie Blair, and his younger sister is Avril Blair. He was married twice. His first marriage was to Aline Maud Blair. That was his first wife, and his child was Richard Blair. And he was adopted. His second marriage was Sona Orwell. So about Eric Blair. In 1933, he got his pen name George Orwell, like I said in the beginning. He lived many years in poverty. So when he was younger, he grew up in poverty, and he fought in the Spanish Civil War and was badly injured. Apparently he was shot. That's what I read. He began supporting himself by writing in 1940. So after the police and Imperial Police Station and stuff like that, that's when he started supporting himself financially by writing. He considers himself as democratic, socialist, and communist. He hates lying, cruelty, intellectuals, and totalitarianism, which is why he hated the strict laws on the government and the police force. He strongly opposed Hitler and Stalin, and he's very outspoken during World War II. His writing career. So after he left the police force, he moved to Paris in 1928. That's when he started to write short stories and he became a dishwasher at that time as well. In 1936, he moved back to England and changed his name, and that was his pen name, basically, to Eric Blair, was to George Orwell. So, a little bit about the bibliography. So he wrote Down and Out in Paris and London in 1933, Burmese Days in 1934, Homage to Catalona in 1938, Coming Up for Air in 1939, and Animal Farm in 1945. So, writing career continued. Awards he won. So, the Prometheus Hall of Fame Award was for the novel he wrote, which was Animal Farm, he won 2 awards actually. In 1984 he won this award, and in 2011. And he also won the Retro Hugo Award for Best Novelia. That was also for Animal Farm, and he won this in 1996. So distinctions. There is an 8-foot bronze statue built outside of BBC in London, which was unveiled in November 2017. And like I said, he won the King's Scholarship to Eton College in 1917. And this is the statue. I thought that was pretty cool. So, 1984. Here's the summarization.
So about 1984, it was written in England from 1947 to 1949. It was published in 1949. Its publisher is Harcourt Brace Jovanovich, if I said that right, Incorporated. It's a novel. Its genre is dystopian. Setting and time is London in 1984. Sorry. It's past tense. It's a dark tone, and the protagonist is Winston Smith, and the antagonist is Big Brother and the party members. The setting is Airstrip, London, and fictional empire of Oceania. Airstrip is one of the constant war with Eurasia and East Asia. Enemy changes from time to time, and previous enemy must be forgotten. The city had several bomb sites, shacks, and poorly maintained buildings. Ministry buildings tower over the city.
And in this picture, so they were having a constant war with Eurasia and East Asia. In here, it just shows like the parts of what would qualify as those two that were at war.
So the summary. We begin with Winston Smith, the protagonist of the novel. He's a citizen of Oceania and works in the Ministry of Truth. We have an introduction of Big Brother. He's a fictional character and the leader of Oceania. The citizens treat him as a godlike figure and is a symbol of power and gazes into the lives of citizens. Big Brother creates this society where the government controls the lives of the public, while expunging their freedom from a party that seems to be everywhere. This book is a great example of totalitarianism, and I will explain that later. We have telescreens. The telescreens in the book are basically electric TV-like structures. They only can be dimmed at certain parts of the day, and they watch you every time except when you're sleeping. They are constant government monitoring systems used to keep observation on the citizens. We have Winston's journal. He writes down in the journal to cope with his wretchedness. He does not let the telescreen watch him write in the journal. Winston was at risk of thought crime after he had written it in the journal. We will get back to thought crime in a second. In the picture right here, it says down with Big Brother most, because of course Winston is totally against Big Brother. However, if the telescreen would have saw him do this, he would have gotten in big trouble for thought crime. Winston meets this woman named Julia, who he falls in love with. However, he does suspect her of being part of the thought police, before they actually start falling more in love with each other. Julia is a woman who desires sex. We will talk about that later as well too. She gives Winston a weird vibe at first and assumes that she is part of the thought police. The thought police are individuals that live their lives to rage against people who live their thoughts. Thinking anything deemed as illegal is an act of thought crime. Example, Winston's journal down with Big Brother. We have Winston and Julia, who I call reckless lovers because Julia and Winston become in love as it progresses. And Julia slipped Winston a note showing her love for him in front of a telescreen, which is illegal, of course. It's very risky. The two continue to meet each other in secret. The couple believes that they are not being watched at all. Surveillance. Antagonist O'Brien turns out to be part of the thought police. He was totally fake to Winston, making him believe that he was totally against the party. Julia and Winston are arrested and made aware of their room being watched, where they would meet each other a lot of times. O'Brien is a member of the inner party, but fools with Winston. He basically brainwashes him. He's a symbol of dehumanizing, and after O'Brien exposed himself into a center of terror for Winston during torture, which I'll talk about later, he makes Winston believe that he is actually a savior more than a threat. So we're about to enter room 101. Room 101, Winston was rebelling against the state, basically, and the state busted him. Later, he lands himself in room 101, which is a torture chamber. It's a room full of your worst fears, and usually not the same for everybody. People are physically and mentally tortured in a room. Winston was torn down badly and seemed like he was in a broken set of mind. Winston's worst fear is rats, so this was his torture method. Things had gotten bad that Winston portrayed Julia, and during the torture, O'Brien teaches Winston as a son-like figure to make him feel more, like you can tell me anything, and he just tells everything. So Winston must obey to society at the end of the torture. By the end of everything, Winston becomes a totally normal person, like nothing ever happened, and everything just goes back to normal. We have a video of room 101 that we'd like to show you.
So I'm just going to explain the video a little bit. So this video will show Winston Smith's experience in room 101. So basically it's a basement torture chamber, and it's located in the Ministry of Love, which I will explain later in the presentation. Like Mercedes said, this is where a person experiences his or her own nightmare. So you will see Winston Smith plays with rats. You'll see it. And the objective of this room is to eventually break down their own resistance. So
You've not asked me the question that's uppermost in your mind. You know it. Everyone knows what's in it. From 101. asked me once, Winston, what was in room 101. I told you that you knew already. Everyone knows. The thing that is in room 101 is the worst thing in the world. It goes beyond fear of pain or death. It is unendurable, and it varies from individual to individual. It may be burial alive, or castration, or any other thing. In your case, it is rats. You will do what is required of you.
How can I do it?
In the proletarian areas, they will attack a baby, and within 5 minutes strip it to the bone. They also attack the sick, the dying. They show astonishing intelligence in knowing that a human being is helpless. The mask fits over your head, leaving no exit. I press the first lever, and the rats move to the front of the body. I press the second, and the door of the cage will slide up. These starving brutes will shoot at you like bullets. Have you ever seen a rat leap through the air? They will leap onto your face and bore straight into it. Sometimes they attack the eyes first. Sometimes they burrow through the cheeks and around.
So that was from the movie that they created off the book, so no one was confused. So, key characters. So all the pictures that are on the slides are based off the movie. So we'll first start with Winston Smith. He is 39 years old. He's the main character and the narrator. So he has a varicose ulcer above his right ankle, and he is given off as thin, frail, and intellectual. He is the low-ranking member of the Outer Party, which I will explain later. He secretly hates Big Brother and rebels by keeping a diary full of his thoughts, which is then his thought crime that he commits. Throughout his diary, he commits thought crimes, like I said, which makes him to believe he will be discovered and killed, which he is discovered in Bachelor Room 101. And his main goal is to demonstrate the possibilities of totalitarianism. He works for the Ministry of Truth as well, which I will explain later. So Julia, this is Winston's lover. She is thought to be 25 years old, and the love affair begins when she places a note in Winston's hand, and the note just simply says, "I love you." She is surprised. Windstorm is surprised by this because any sexual relationship between party members is forbidden, and she enjoys sex and has affairs with many party members. So she goes against the party and the laws of the party, and she is thought to be very like risky when she does this, and she works for the fiction department of the Ministry of Truth. So O'Brien. O'Brien is a member of the Inner Party, which is like also known as the party, so it's like the high rank. He is thought to be mysterious and powerful. Winston believes he is a member of Brotherhood, which is a group of anti-party rebels. And Winston trusts and admires O'Brien, but never figures him out. Emmanuel Goldstein. He leads an underground rebellion called Brotherhood. He is the enemy of all citizens, and he is thought to be the most dangerous and guilty man. So Big Brother. Big Brother is perceived ruler of Oceania. He looks like a combination of Hitler and Stalin, which we know George Orwell despises both Hitler and Stalin. And his face is unavoidable. It's stamped on coins. It's projected on telescreens, which is like TVs in our day. He is about 40 years old, and he is displayed on the poster with the slogan, "Big Brother is watching." That is important, so I would write that down. So now we have Mr. Charrington. Now, he is a kind and encouraging man. He owns a second-hand shop in the Pearls District, where he then rents out a room for Winston and Julia, where without a telescreen, so they can continue their love affair without getting caught. But that doesn't happen. He is supportive of Winston's rebellion against the party, but he's a secret member of the Thought Police. And this is just like his little second-hand shop. So Parsons. He is thought to be fat and obnoxious. He works for the Ministry of Truth. He has a doll wife, and his children work for the Junior Spies. So key symbols. We'll start with Oceania. So Oceania is a huge country ruled by the party. Its language is Newspeak, which I will explain later. Igsoc is their philosophy in which who fails to comply with the party's rules will lose existence or be vaporized, which is kind of like what it's giving off. So vaporized meaning like lose existence, basically. So the Inner Party, which is 1% of the population, and they control the country. The Outer Party is 18% of the population and are controlled by the Inner Party. The Proles are 81% of the population who live in poverty. The labor power. So the Inner Party. The Inner Party is also known as the Party, and it's the upper class and ruler of Oceania. So like they're rich and they have really nice clothes and stuff like that. So they have many privileges, such as turning off telescreens as wanted. They make policy, affect decisions, and govern the country. And they place cameras and watch people, which are the telescreens, basically. So the government, it has 4 parts. The Ministry of Truth, which is the past and present are revised, which is also known as Minitru. There's the Ministry of Peace, where it creates continuous war, which is known as Minipax. And they have the Ministry of Plenty. It creates false food shortages, and it's also known as Mini-Plenty. And they also have the Ministry of Love, which creates hatred for enemies of Oceania, which is known as Miniplex. Minilove, my bad, sorry. Yeah, now we have the Outer Party, which is like the middle class. They experience harsher restrictions, and they're closely being watched by the Thought Police. The Inner Party members believe the Outer Party poses a great danger in overthrowing them. They do most of the work in the party government, which was Ministry of Truth, Ministry of Peace, Ministry of Plenty, Ministry of Love. They wear blue jumpsuits. That's how you can like distinguish them. And they drink Victory gin. They have Victory coffee and Victory cigarettes. They have Sarakin tablets instead of sugar, which is what they usually get at lunch. And their food quality is very low. It's very poor. So the proles. The proles is the lower class. A prole is a member of proletariat or a lower class, just what I said. The majority of the population, so they're 81% of the country. The most carefree, so the members are kept dormant and free, with free booze, free sex, and pornography without any surveillance, so they're not being watched. Newspeak. It's the official language of Oceania. Since Oceania sees no purpose in complex language, its goal is to destroy English words and form Newspeak words. So like a more basic dictionary basically. Their vocabulary decreases every year, and their motive is to abolish feelings and the sense of comparison. So, which can be achieved by using words such as doublethink, black, white, and good think. Doublethink is the ability to hold two thoughts and believing both to be true. Black, white is to change one views depending on needs and wants of the party. The thought police. The secret police of Oceania. They're the ones that uncover and punish thought crime. They monitor all telescreens and hunt down anyone who commits a crime against the party. And some crimes would be like speaking out, not participating in activities, looking down on activities, not showing enjoyment towards activities as well. And how do they monitor the thoughts? Well, as the telescreens are watching the people, they might sleep talk, they could show hesitation when they talk, and a lack of enthusiasm. Okay, now we have key themes and symbols. A key theme, the dangers of totalitarianism, which is where the ruler has complete control. So like the party has complete control of Oceania. So the setting is 1984, but was published 35 years before. It was to show if totalitarianism grew untouched, the novel would become a reality. So our government. We have psychological and physical manipulation, which the party pushes citizens with psychological actions. Like the telescreen broadcasts misleading information to citizens, and it's designed to show like party failures as a success. The Big Brother posters remind citizens they are being watched, and they brainwash children to spy on their parents and family, which is the junior spies. So we also have control of history and language. The party changes newspapers to justify the present. If one can't remember life before the revolution, then no one can say the party has failed. And they replace English with Newspeak to make it simpler. So symbols. We have Big Brother. His face symbolizes the party. It appears on posters and slogan. It's with the slogan, Big Brother is watching you. The name gives off warmth and protection, but it's actually terrifying and threatening. It's how the inner party presents themselves. They don't want citizens to know who rules Oceania. So, and then another symbol would be the telescreens. So they symbolize the party's monitoring of its citizens. The totalitarian governments misuse technology, and instead of using it to improve civilization.
Alright, so we have the author's message. Okay, so the author's message portrayed the point. So Orwell's goal was to warn individuals of the serious peril totalitarianism that's brought to society. He goes above and beyond to reveal the degree of control and power totalitarianism can acquire. Totalitarianism is government control that has generously spread across the globe. Leaders such as Hitler, who was elected in 1933 by German people, and he assumed illegally that he had more power than granted. He held complete control of government, and locally and nationally. And also Stalin, who came to power due to the death of Vladimir Lenin, and gained control by basically blackmailing leaders of the communist government. He eventually murdered his rival Leon Trotsky. They became the perfect example of totalitarianism individuals. Totalitarianism altogether is basically ruled by a single party, total control of communication, total control of the economy, and no privacy of individual life. Dystopian novel. What is a dystopian novel? A dystopian novel is a novel that can be characterized by dehumanization, totalitarian government, an environmental disaster, and cataclysmic decline in society. It appears as fiction and draws attention to real-world issues such as environment, society, politics, religion, and science. 1984. How is it a dystopian novel? We're going to start off with Big Brother and the party members. I know that we're kind of repetitive, but all of it comes together into one. So Big Brother, due to them being in everyone's lives, the society is not sane and it's unpleasant living. It's an unrealistic version of the world. It's altered to try to be perfect. The clock strikes 13, and 2 + 2 is 5 in the eyes of Big Brother, even though many believe, including Winston, that 2 + 2 is 4. But it's things like that that make everyone, it's kind of like unhealthy, you know what I mean? Because real things such as 2 + 2 = 4 actually equals 5 due to Big Brother. We have the act of brainwashing. Brainwashing is controlling someone else's thoughts. This is definitely dystopia. This is all to worship one leader. People are just brainwashed just to believe Big Brother, and they're just forced to have to live through them. Nevaeh already talked about Newspeak, but Newspeak is part of this because they are altering their words to what they can and cannot speak. One leader is altering what they can and cannot say or do, so they have a whole new language. Life itself is very poor. Food is very bland and gross. Usually they eat the same things every day. Life's just all around not good over there. And no love. Love is very difficult, and you can't really do it. It's illegal. This is our works cited page.